Good evening, folks, and welcome to yet another episode of the ARCA Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Colby Evans, aka Start and Park Car. And man, we got a big show for you guys today. The Main Series Championship finale race took place over the weekend. And boy, it was pretty much everything we expected it to be from last week's show. Great racing on track, coming down to the last lap, and like we predicted, a fight. Everything we pretty much predicted from last week's show actually ended up happening in this race. I can't wait to go over it. And not only that, we got a great field of West cars to talk about at this weekend's race at the Las Vegas Bullring. Some ARCA Main Series competitors that'll be in that race. Again, so much to talk about. Let's get through my tiny little intro, and then we'll just get right into the show. You guys know the drill. Follow me on social media at Start and Park Car. Like and subscribe to the channel. We just hit over 530 subs. Again, can't thank you guys enough for the continued support. It's much, much appreciated. Go and check out racingexperts.com for all NASCAR and ARCA content. Give NASCAR Man a follow and a shout out, and give my man Brockbeard a shout out. Also, shout out to Brockbeard. Happy birthday. Last car on Brock today turns, I believe, 40. So happy birthday to him. And of course, a happy birthday to Start and Park legend and one of my all-time favorite underdogs, Morgan Shepherd, turns 81 today. So I wanted to give him a shout out as well. So let's get right into it. The championship weekend at Toledo. You know, for years, ARCA, 2011 was the last time that ARCA competed at Toledo for the championship. Ever since then, it was at Kansas. From 2012 to 2021, it was held at Kansas. And, you know, I didn't really necessarily mind that. But I felt like a track like that really didn't embody what the championship race, it should have ended. I don't think it really embodied the series. Because at the end of the day, it's just, it's like the championship was not the most important thing. And I feel like that was one of the big drawbacks to that race. Like, oh, hey, the ARCA championships up for grabs. By the way, don't forget the Cup race and Xfinity race happening the next couple days. So the one thing I hated about going to the ARCA championship race and even working it is just the atmosphere. It didn't feel like it was a championship race. It felt like you were just going to another ARCA race. And that's not a take on the series. That's just how it felt. I'm not sure how many of you guys have gone to the Kansas ARCA races. You know, obviously the fields have gone down a bit, which has definitely hurt the on-track activity at Kansas. And I will say right now, judging by the races we saw Kansas a month ago, a couple months ago, versus the races we saw last weekend, ARCA definitely made the right choice and switching back to Toledo from Kansas, because we got one heck of a race. Jacob Givens in the chat. Good evening, my friend. Thanks for tuning in. So let's start off. Again, not the biggest field that I predicted. I predicted 30 cars, and, you know, again, it's okay. Toledo's a small enough track where even a 20-car field would look more than big enough and is more than enough on track. Hey, guys, look at that. We got Tony Bridinger in the chat. Good to see you, Tony. Well, actually, Tony, if you're going to stick around for most of this show, I actually want to discuss something. Something did happen with Tony on track that I was going to bring up later in the show, but we had a big field of cars here. Again, I predicted around 30. We only had 24 show up, but again, a track like Toledo, you only need about 20, maybe 20 to 25 cars to really put on a good show. That way, everyone doesn't get too spread out, and, you know, not a lot happens. Luckily, that was not the case. We had plenty of on-track action. Battles for first, battles for fifth, battles for 10th, even battles for 18th. I mean, they were all over the place. Going over our practice notes, it really looked like it was going to be a mess to see who could win this race. Sammy Smith did win practice, but it didn't look like he was going to win practice for the longest time. Guys like Daniel Dye and Jesse Love, they were leading the practice session for a long time. At one point, Grant Enfinger was leading practice. Now, again, that was a GMS car that was confirmed to me by Zachary Tinkle. That was a GMS car in a conjunction effort with Fast Track Racing and Jeff McClure Racing. Either way, kind of odd to see the 44 car unsponsored at the same time, but still glad to see a guy like Grant out there, longtime ARCA competitor, and definitely great to see. So yeah, he ended up 6th, but that's because late in the race, everyone decided to really kind of make like qualifying type runs because guys like Sammy Smith, Dye, and Love, they were like over a 10th faster than the field, and it's really hard to gain a 10th at a track like Toledo. So that really told me that they were probably practicing qualifying runs. Other notables, Raja was down in 7th. Matthew Gould was down in 10th. One guy did not practice, Jeffrey McZink. He had a rough day, wouldn't make a practice lap and would spin out on his qualifying lap. So rough start for him. Interesting entry, the 55. I really didn't understand this entry with Morgan Baird. I thought this would be a full race entry. I probably should have known. Morgan has done mostly start and parks with the occasional full race at his home track in Michigan. If you guys want to go check out, I believe it was Casey Campbell interviewed him. It's on his Twitter page, and they basically just called him to run a couple laps of practice, and that's literally all they did. The 55 did not make a qualifying run and subsequently withdrew from the race itself. But I believe in ARCA rules, all you have to do is make a practice lap, and you are classified. Even if you are not going to start the race, you'll be just listed as a did not start. Zachary Tinkle's in the chat saying, if I recall correctly, they ran the 55 as a start and park to get on the B plan, making 10 race attempts. You know what? That makes sense. Thank you, Zachary. That absolutely makes sense. And I don't blame him. I don't really have time to explain it on the show. We really should do that. If for any of the drivers that do tune into the show, we really should do a podcast episode where we explain these A plan and B plans to these race fans, because I feel like that'd be another fun thing that we could show about the ARCA series. But moving on with practice, so 23 of the 24 made a practice lap. Obviously, the start and parks for this race, the 55 they actually started the race. The 01, of course, of Tim Monroe, the 12 of Zachary Tinkle, and the 10 of Tony Cosentino. I didn't think he was going to be a start and park, but with no sponsorship on the car, it kind of was a dead giveaway. And of course, Nate Muller, the second Peterson car. Qualifying fared a little bit different on track. Surprisingly, Sammy Smith was not first, not even in the top 3. Sammy Smith surprisingly only qualified 5th. Jesse Love would win the pole. A huge get for Venturini, as again, they were separated by just 1 point in the Owners' Championship. And a huge moment also in practice that I failed to mention, actually, was the championship contender Nick Sanchez. How about this? For the last race of the season, Rev has an engine issue. The engine had to be changed on the number 2 car, so Nick was forced to run laps in Raja's 6 car just to get, a feel for the track and, what adjustments that they could apply to his 2 car. So some really interesting early championship developments going on. And, I will say Ilmore has definitely had its fair share of engine issues this season. I would even say in the truck series. So I don't know what it is about those Ilmores, but sometimes they break pretty easily. But yeah, Jesse Love, he would win the pole. Daniel Dye was second. Grant Enfinger was third. So you knew the GMS cars, man, they were going to be tough. And I don't blame them. You had Daniel Dye out there all by himself. And Rev had 2 bullets out there. So I don't blame GMS Racing for bringing out a second bullet in the 44 of Grant Enfinger. I guarantee you, had circumstances gone the way of the 43 not having his parts failure later in the race, that the 44 would definitely have been a teammate helper. But pretty much when the 43 dropped out, all the 44 could do was then go for the win. So yeah, Grant Enfinger was 3rd. Taylor Gray was 4th. Sammy Smith was 5th. Landon Pemilton was 6th. Shout out to Amber Balkin, who was 7th, one of her better qualifying runs of the season. Nick Sanchez was only 8th. So shout out to Amber Balkin for actually beating not one, but both of the Rev entries, and to Tony Breidinger. She also beat one of the Rev entries and was just under Sanchez. So a very impressive qualifying runs by the ladies this weekend. I was actually surprised, but at the same time, they've been improving all season, and it's great to see. You love to see the improvement. Other notables, Matthew Gould was down in 12th. Pizza Man Andy was 13th. Greg Van Elsen was down in 14th, was a little bit shocking. Figured he would have been a little bit more competitive. And again, the 55 withdrew. The 65 spun out on his qualifying lap. And slowest was Nate Muller, then Alex Clubb, Brad Smith, and A.J. Moyer. So we move into the race. Again, I really wish this race was at night, but it is what it was. Toledo, in my opinion, is a lot more fun at night. Shout out to the Starting Parks. I know we usually don't give Starting Parks shout outs on this show, but I will say that the Starting Parks, they didn't affect this race in any way. They all got off the track very, very quickly, which, again, that's something you want to see. You don't want to see any of these Starting Parks getting in the way. Nate Muller ran 2 laps. Monroe ran 3 laps. And Tinkle literally ran 6 laps. Although he almost got ran into the wall at one point, Zachary would tell, if you saw Zachary's tweets after the race, not very happy with some of the cars on track almost getting wrecked. Also, shout out from Zachary Tinkle. He was running a Ford with a Dodge motor. So, for Zachary, I love that. I absolutely love the fact that Andy was running a Ford car. The 12 was a Ford with a Dodge motor. That is ARCA in a nutshell, and that is why I love this series so much, because you will never see that in NASCAR, or at least not in this day and age. You did back in the day, but you won't see it in this day and age. So, yeah, the race started. We were quickly down to just 20 cars on track, but like I said, plenty of cars to still put on a good show. Will say kind of shocked at the lack of speed with the 03 and the 06. And that's not a knack on AJ and Alex. They are good friends of mine. But definitely struggling for speed. Even Brad was running almost a half a second a lap faster than them. So they were going to be the 3 stragglers. The 06 and the 03 were pretty slow, and the 48 could keep up decent pace, but was still, of course, pretty slow. The race got going early. Jesse Love chose the inside. But at a track like Toledo, if you can get a good enough launch off of turn 2, you can actually clear your opponent on the inside. And that's what Daniel Dye was able to do for at least the first lap. Daniel Dye was credited with leading the first lap, starting ahead of Sanchez quickly. Daniel Dye took the points lead. So it's like, wow, we're on lap 1. The points have already changed. This championship could literally go either way. And it was really great to see 5 laps in. And the championship had already switched hands on both the owner's side and the driver's side. By lap 5, Venerini had retaken the lead, and GMS and Daniel Dye were in the lead. So we were in for a good treat. So continuing on, Jesse Love quickly got back to the lead and asserted himself as the dominant car, pulling out to, I don't know what you kind of call a big lead, but at a track like Toledo, maybe about a second. I would call that a pretty good lead at Toledo, considering that you're turning almost the entire way around. Jesse asserted himself as the dominant car. Grant Enfinger asserted himself as a very dominant car as well in the top 5. Taylor Gray, shout out to Taylor Gray's team for running that awesome Frank Kimmel throwback from his Larry Clement days. It's a shame. If you guys saw pardon me for a second. If you guys saw on the NASCAR Diecast fans Twitter account, unfortunately, they are not making that 17 car. That is just a massive disappointment. Unfortunately, not many people would buy the ARCA cars. I wish they would make it as a promotional car. I'd buy it. I know everybody who watches this show would buy it. I mean, it's just a shame that, a lot of ARCA cars, a lot of great ARCA paint schemes don't get made into diecasts. Because, man, we really have some awesome paint schemes that have ran in the ARCA series this year. But yeah, Taylor was up there. Raja showed early that he had looked to be the more competitive of the Rev entries. I will say, even throughout this whole race, Nick Sanchez really did not show the speed that I kind of would have expected him to show in a championship type race. Now, maybe he was trying to play a conservative. I know, his team went with like a conservative setup on the car. They really didn't go, full bore short track setup. They went kind of like a conservative short track setup. Maybe that's why, but I was kind of surprised. Nick really wasn't moving through the pack. Yeah, he got to the top 5, but he really wasn't moving up through the pack as quickly as I thought he would. But, with his team, they've been around for a long time, and it's possible they just wanted him to play it safe because obviously no matter what, we were going to have that caution on lap 75 for the first race break. So meanwhile, during that time, 38 laps in, we had more cars, like I said, going a lap down. They were quickly catching the back of the field. But I will say the other stragglers like, the 42, the 11, the 73, the 25, and the 40 that were not necessarily back markers, but were running about like 9th to about 15th. They were holding a very steady pace as well. The only cars that I really noticed throughout this race that were, in the way lap traffic were the 03, the 06, and the 48. But again, we're kind of used to that. We're kind of used to those guys not necessarily being away, but being lap traffic. Everyone else in this race did, I will say, a very admirable job of holding great pace to the point where we really didn't see any of these leaders in deep traffic. And it really made for some interesting on-track racing because you didn't have to worry about the threat of lap traffic. And these guys and gals could go at each other, fist to cuffs, not having to worry about that. So that's another interesting part of this race that I highly, highly enjoyed. We got some fun stuff in the chat right now between Zachary and Tony. I love it. But yeah, 38 laps into the race. However, we did have our first caution. Unfortunately, right as she was getting lapped off of turn 4, the 42 of Amber Slagle spun. Luckily, no damage to the car. She got it back going again. There was no free pass under the caution because she had just gotten lapped. So the rule, unfortunately, is if you are the person who brings out the caution and you are the first car lap down, no free pass. So that kind of sucked for her being stuck a lap down. We'll say Amber definitely has improved since her West days for sure. I really hope Amber Slagle does get more starts for Bruce Cook next year. Is she running this weekend? Is Amber running this weekend in the West race? I don't. We'll look at the entry list in a little bit. But I will say shout out to Amber. Even though she kind of struggled in this race, she's definitely gotten a lot better too, and I'm glad to see that because, she was a great mechanic, and it's great to see her step up into the driver's seat as well. So, yeah, that caution period ended. And again, the same thing kind of happened on the restart. Coming off the restart on lap 44, we had pretty much the exact same thing happen on the start. Daniel Dye was able to get out front and lead another lap. Unfortunately, though, the inside line would prevail again, and Jessie Love would retake the lead. So it was kind of interesting. Basically, what happened on the start happened the exact same time, just 40 laps later. So that was quite ironic. But Jessie Love pulled back away, and it was at this point, he was leading many, many, many laps. And the 18 of Sammy Smith was kind of stuck. It was quite shocking to see the 18 struggle with how great they performed at Salem. I really thought that they were going to be the car to beat. I did not expect it to be the 20 car at all. I really thought the 18 was going to be the car to beat, and we would see kind of what we saw at the end of the race, roles reversed. I thought we would see the 20 car making that move at the end of the race, but nope. Billy Vannerini and his guys really brought one heck of a car this weekend for Jessie to drive. And noted like how many laps they were leading. They were going to lock up that most laps led point, which I think at that point would have just made sure it was a tie for that championship, and pretty much whoever finished ahead of each other was going to win that owner's championship. But yeah, so Jessie was pulling back out front. Grant Enfinger had made his way up to second, showing that, he didn't necessarily have the winning car, but man, he definitely had a good car. And maybe Jeff McClure, maybe so, could get his first win. That would have been cool. Even though if it was a GMS car, seeing a guy like Jeff McClure get a win after being around for so long, come on, we can all agree that would have been kind of cool. During this time, though, again, the 03, the 06, and the 48, going more laps down. I work for the 48 team, but I got to admit, when we're slow, we're slow. I'll admit we're slow. But hey, we're running a legacy motor on the same set of tires. So what do you expect out of us? That's kind of all I can say to anyone who hates on the 48 team. What do you kind of expect out of us? We're running out there the best we can. So yeah, everyone else was running in the top 10. Great stories, by the way, in the top 10. Even though he wouldn't finish in the top 10, Amber was still running in the top 10. Matthew Gould, Andy Jankowiak. Shout out to Mav TV for actually focusing on the non-championship contenders. It's great having a series that actually focuses on the other people in the field other than the championship contenders. Because, we've seen a lot, especially on recent broadcasts, that they literally just focus on the championship contenders. They don't focus on anyone else in the field. Luckily in ARCA, they focus on pretty much everyone in the field. And that's great to see as well. So, yeah, they were focusing on those cars. 22 laps later, unfortunately, we had another caution which involved the 42 of Amber Slagle again spinning in turn 1. Now, for some reason, Racing Reference has this listed as the 66 in turn 1, but I don't believe there was a 66 car there was no 66 car in the race. I wonder if they meant the 65, because this was part of the spring where the 65 was involved in a couple of accidents, or maybe was that the 11? I don't know, but for some reason it has the 66 listed, but there was no 66 in the race. I want to call that the 11. I don't know if that was wrong, though. Either way, 42 of Amber Slagle spun again in turn 1. Poor Amber was just having a rough time. 2 straight cautions, and she was supposed to be the free pass, and she didn't even get the free pass. Luckily, no one was really, no cars were hurt in the crash. They got the race quickly going again. Quick 5-lap stint to the first caution break, where finally, poor Amber Slagle finally got her free pass. At this point, Jesse Love had already led 74 laps. He only needed to lead just 26 more to claim the most laps led point. Coming out of this first caution break, we had some very interesting pit calls. The 2 of Sanchez's team decided to keep him out there in order to also lead a lap. So that way, that points difference, the bonus point that Daniel had received earlier in the race for leading a lap, well, that would be even. So smart call right there. Although the tire wear was noticeable, General Tire did bring a very solid tire that fell off, but not to the point where you were going to be, bat crap slow. And also noted during this caution, the 43 for some reason shut off. I don't really remember what they said was on the broadcast. Maybe it was a battery, a voltage issue, but the 43 shut off and lost all of his track position. And failure to maintain pace. For some reason, he had to go to the complete back of the field. So Daniel Dye had to start behind, not only the cars that were running about 14th to 15th, but he also had to restart behind the 06, the 48, and the 03. So, he lost a lot of time at the very beginning of the race with, 2 laps in, to the second stage. He was already 8 seconds behind the leader. That was a really tough break. And it was also kind of surprising to see, Dye, even on fresh tires. Now, again, we only had 6 tires to use, so technically fresh right sides. But Dye really wasn't making his way through the pack as quickly as maybe I thought he would. So that was kind of surprising. Yeah, he got his way into the top 10, but it took him a good 15 laps. And I think that just goes to show you, the cars that were running, a little outside the top 10, even themselves brought very solid pieces to go out there and race. Meanwhile, Sanchez, he led his laps, quickly fell back on the restart. Jesse Love took back the lead handedly. Sanchez would fall back all the way outside to the top 6, where Raja, it almost felt like at this point, we were starting to see a little bit of the team orders. I don't know if you could call it team orders, but some teammate help. We'll go with that term a little bit better. And Raja would not pass the 2 for a while. Eventually, though, when the 2 really, really started to fade and the 43 was starting to get up near the 6, I feel like only then they're like, okay, Raja's like, I can only help you so much here, buddy. I got to finally pass you. And he eventually did. Raja did pass Sanchez for position. And the 43 of Dye would as well. Right at the moment we would have our next caution, 17 laps later, the 65, he would get spun off of turn 2. I'm not sure by who, and thankfully the 03 just barely got stopped in time. Alex Club nearly T-boned him right in the driver's door, but luckily got stopped. No damage to either car. The 48 of Brad also got stopped. I think the 03 and the 48 stalled it because that's pretty much why it took him so long to get going. Alex needed a push, but like I said, got going pretty quickly. The race didn't get any better for poor Jeffrey McZink, as just a couple laps later, he would have his race-ending caution, smacking into the turn 3 wall very, very hard. I'm not sure if he got turned or he just lost it. Now at Toledo, they don't have safer barriers. They just have giant foam blocks. I don't know if that would hurt badly, but I can say I would not want to hit one of those in a next gen. Jeffrey was okay, got out of the car. Car actually looks pretty okay. It's just going to need some new everything, pretty much. New rear, new nose, new doors. But in terms of like the motor and the chassis itself, it's fine. I think Jeffrey will be back next year. He's just going to need to place a pretty big order at 5-star bodies to get his car repaired. So yeah, that sucked for Jeffrey. You know, this was kind of a fun one-off for him. And yeah, it was rough. No practice laps, no qualifying laps technically because he spun. And then to crash out very hard in the race, really kind of the biggest crash of the race. At this point, we had only received just our second free pass of the race, the 48 of Brad Smith. All of the other cars towards the back of the field were still in the lead lap. So the only cars that were actually lapped down at the point of this caution were the 48, 06, and 03. Also at this point, we had lost another Hillenburg car. 3 of the 4 Hillenburg entries were starting parks. So that kind of sucked to see. And then, of course, Jeffrey McZink crashing out as well. So we only had 18 cars left on track. Quick 19-lap sprint to the second stage break. Again, no change up front. Jesse Love just putting on a clinic. At this point, had clinched the most laps led point, which, again, I believe that did indeed tie the 18 and the 20 for owner points. So it was pretty much where whoever finished ahead of each other, if I had to believe, whoever finished ahead of each other was going to win that owner's championship. While as for the driver's championship, yeah, they were neck and neck. But with Sanchez holding that 2-point lead, no matter if they were neck and neck or even right beside each other, Sanchez was going to hold out his lead. That's all Sanchez had to do, was make sure that 43 was in his sights, whether he was in front of him or directly behind him. So a quick 19-lap sprint to break 2. Obviously, this is where everybody put on their 4 tires. Some of the teams that took 4 tires at break 1, then this is where they would put on their 2 tires. For Sanchez, it was a big break because he finally got to change tires. He had to go the first 125 laps on the same set. Luckily, like I said, General Tire brings a great set of tires to use. Quickly, as we got back to green on lap 127, we were right back under caution again. 4 laps later, the 11 of Brandon Varney would spin in turn 1. I do believe that involved another car, but I don't remember exactly who was also involved in that crash. But either way, definitely did suck for sure. It was Amber Balkan. Okay, so it was Amber Balkan who was involved in that crash. Luckily, again, nope, none of their cars were really damaged. Varney was also running the same car that Bryce Hodgeberg was running at Milwaukee too. So that was kind of funny as well. And that really kind of was the last caution of the race. After that, we had some more changes. Looked like for the lead, you know, some guys were getting outside of Jesse Love, but nobody had outright passed him. And it really looked like, you know, coming out of that flag, Jesse Love, he had pulled out to arguably the biggest lead he had all race. But also Sammy Smith had climbed as high as he'd been the whole race as well. He had climbed up to 3rd. So coming back from the screen, you know, we were logging laps, and, you know, it genuinely looked like, you know, that, it was going to be a battle to the finish. And unfortunately, it was under, I believe, I don't know if it was the break 2 caution or the number 11 caution, but the 43 of Daniel Dye, the championship hopes were over. At first, what was believed to be a broken shock turns out was a broken ball joint. Not a quick fix at all. And I remember just seeing the set. You could hear the sadness in the commentators. You know, you could hear it, and your heart sank because we were having one hell of a battle. Absolutely one hell of a battle on track. And this was going to come down to literally the last lap, just like the Owners' Championship did. This Drivers' Championship was going to be coming down to the last lap. And I'll say it's a damn shame that the championship had to be decided like that. You know, I know Nick Sanchez is happy. I know Nick Sanchez is happy he won, but I bet even Nick, he probably didn't like winning the championship like that either. He wanted that to go down to the end of the wire too. Oh, so yeah, that was a little bit sad. The commentators tried to act like it could be a quick fix, but everyone who's ever worked on a race car or any type of car knows a broken ball joint, be lucky to get that thing fixed quickly. So, unfortunately, that pretty much sealed the championship up unless utter chaos happened to the 2 car, like another engine failure or part broke on track and he crashed. The championship was going to go to Rev Racing and Nick Sanchez. Luckily, the 43 team did get the car repaired, and Daniel was at least able to finish the last race of the season. But again, absolute heartbreak because we were in for one heck of a championship finale. But meanwhile, up front, man, it was getting tense. You know, lap after lap after lap, it looked like, you know, the 20 of Jesse Love was just going to cruise to an easy victory. But, you know, the one thing that I've always said about a lot of these, you know, veteran drivers coming over to the sport, and I said this, you know, a lot with Brandon Jones, you know, that veteranness of how to race a race car in a long run to the end. And it really started to show with Grant Enfinger. You know, he was slowly but surely eating into Love's lead, slowly but surely. And man, I tell you, with 10 laps to go, it's like Grant had a fresh set of tires. He absolutely ate into Jesse's lead. And I'm like, here we go, man. Grant's coming for it. Because at the end of the day, I would love to see Jeff McClure get a win. And, you know, Grant's like, I'm here to win. You know, if my teammate is out of the race, might as well go for a win now. Because I guarantee that's probably why the 44 was there, to really kind of help the 43. So when that car left, 44 just go for the win. Let's go for it. And, you know, who was following the 44? The 18 of Sammy Smith. Now, everyone else kind of was falling back. You know, this was probably one of the weaker races, I would say, for the 17 of Taylor Gray. Raja couldn't really keep up. The 15 of Landon Pendleton, he had trouble keeping up. So it was going to be a battle between these 3 cars. They had distanced themselves about 2 seconds ahead of everyone else. And man, Enfinger was coming. And, you know, he's coming and he's coming. 7 laps to go, 6 laps to go, 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go. And then he is there. Lap traffic is now a problem. We have finally hit a long enough run in the race where lap traffic was an issue. And man, the 44 was there. And I don't blame Grant. He absolutely went for it. He actually led a lap. He got in front. Contrary to how hard I thought they were going to battle, the 44 took the lead. But as quickly as he took the lead, the 20 got right back past him. And what that did, that got Sammy Smith right to their bumpers. And we took the flag with 3 laps to go. And here he comes. And classic short track racing. The 44 goes for a move on the inside of the 20. And here comes the 18, just moving them both out of the way. And the 18 of Sammy Smith, despite being a pretty much non-contender all day, he steals it, absolutely steals the win, leads the final 3 laps. The 20 of Jesse Love could not get there. And Sammy Smith collects yet another win in 2020, his 6th overall win of the season. And Kyle Busch Motorsports claims the ARCA Owners Championship. Yeah, it's pretty much the Joe Gibbs racing team with a new name. But for Kyle Busch, you know, he's listed as the owner, so he gets the credit. 2023 East Driver and Owners Championship, 2022 Main Series Championship, and over 10 wins. Very, very impressive season for Kyle Busch Motorsports. And like we all predicted, it went down after the race. Jesse Love was not happy. Venerini was not happy. There was a couple of fights. And I will say one of the biggest FU burnouts in history. And personally, one of my favorite, I would probably say one of the most savage burnouts, FU savage burnouts, was Jesse Love and Sammy Smith kind of, you know, going at each other. They didn't hit each other with their cars, but they were kind of swerving at each other. And Sammy Smith spins the car right in front of Jesse, and he burns that sucker. And I'm like, that is savage times 100. Love it. Absolutely love it by Sammy Smith. So savage. stealing the win, stealing the owner's championship, and stealing that owner's bonus, man. Jesse Love was not too happy. After the race, he would actually take down the 18's window net, and he would try to go full Ryan Newman on him, or full Clint Boyer on him from the Ryan Newman and Boyer incident from the All-Star race a couple years ago. But right before he could really start laying in probably were going to be punches, an ARCA official, one of the longtime ARCA officials, I don't know his name, but one of the longtime ARCA officials got a hold of him, literally lifted him up like a child and brought him to the side. It was such a weird sight, seeing Jesse literally get lifted up like a child. Lifted up to that side. And, there were some more hot tempers on the track. I'm not sure if Tony is still watching with us. I hope she is. But yeah, Tony had some beef after the race with Grant Enfinger. So I hope if she is still watching with us, she could put in the chat. I'd love to read it for you guys. But yeah, she had some beef on track. So yeah, man, a lot of the Venerini cars definitely came out of this race. Not very happy. There were pictures after the race of Billy Venerini, kind of shown with maybe some bloody wounds on his face. There was a fight in the grandstands. I believe him involved an 18 crew member. So it got ugly, man. Like we predicted last week's show, it was going to get ugly. And it did. It got ugly real bad. But that's racing at the end of the day. You had a lot of people disagree with the move. And then, people like me who just said, dude, that's short track racing. It's short track racing. It's not like he just junked him and sent him into the wall. Just moved him out of the track. I mean, that's been happening since the 1900s. So, if you're Jesse Love and Billy Venerini, it's a tough pill to swallow. But at the end of the day, that's racing. Sammy would go on to say he really didn't know why, he was upset. I kind of think it was kind of a little bit of a corporate interview. I think Sammy, he kind of knew what he did. He just kind of, backtracked away from it and gave, the standard victory lane interview. Jesse, he didn't hold back. I do agree. It's not the first time that the 18 and 20 have made contact this season. It's not the first time that they had made contact this season. And Jesse obviously frustrated, just saying, we've gotten, hit by him a couple of times before, and I just expected better out of him. And, I don't blame Jesse. The frustration was there. And, he was even remorseful in his interview, saying he shouldn't have done what he did after the race, and it was in the heat of the moment. And I completely understand that, dude. I would have done the same thing. I think a lot of us could say we would have done the same thing in the heat of the moment, but then later realized, okay, maybe it was a good thing that got de-escalated when it did. Story from Zachary Tinkle right here. Yeah, I was walking around with Jeff McClure, and Bill rolled up on his scooter, and, well, he and Jeff had a cuss-filled argument. I love it. I love it. ARCA beef, man. I love it. Oh, Zachary, man, why did you record that? That's the type of no, I wouldn't mess with Big Bill. He's one of my best friends in the garage, but man. Oh, God. Oh, Zachary, man, why did you record that? Dang it. Oh, I love that. Yeah, I wouldn't mess with Big Bill. He might be in his 60s now, but I still would not mess with him. He could punch your lights out. Oh, that's great. So your final finishing positions for the race were Sammy Smith in first, Jesse Love was second, Grant Enfinger was third, Taylor Gray was fourth, Raja Crute was fifth, championship winner Nick Sanchez was sixth. Surprising he didn't get a top 5 finish, though. Landon Pemberton was seventh, and shout out to these guys for getting top 10 runs, and gals, of course. Matthew Gould finishing 8th, Greg Van Oust getting another top 10, and Amber Balkin, arguably running one of the best races of her entire season, getting a solid top 10 finish. Pizza Man Andy Jankowiak, 11th, Brandon Varney was 12th, Amber Slagle was 13th. Tough break for Tony because she had to pit for a green flag pit stop after contact with Grant Enfinger. She unfortunately finished 14th. Brad Smith 15th, AJ Moyer 16th, Alex Clubb 17th, and Daniel Dye, our final finisher of the race, in 18th. So definitely when the whole race is uploaded to YouTube, because we know somebody out there is going to upload it, definitely would recommend going back and watching all of this in full. Definitely would recommend going back and watching this in full. Very, very fun race. Very, very fun atmosphere. The whole week, the way that they were hyping it up, the Toledo Twitter account, Charlie Crawl, the ARCA PR director, hyping it up, posting the championship ARCA trophy at all these different venues in the area, bringing in all the legends, the Fan Fest autograph session. This is what the championship is supposed to feel like, not just some random weekend at Kansas in conjunction with the NASCAR circuit. I am so thrilled and I'm so happy at how this weekend went for the series. Much needed, absolutely great. And I can't wait for next year. And I will say, even though it's a little bit of a drive from my house, if hopefully, if maybe gas prices can get a little bit better, I would absolutely love to go to Toledo next year for next year's finale. So I just love it, man. The series, I feel like this is probably one of the best ARCA seasons as a whole since probably about 2017, 2018. In terms of car counts, in terms of on-track product, the main season, I absolutely say delivered. We had our few, I wouldn't even call her snoozers, but not very good races. But you're going to have that. You've had that in the Cup Series season. We've even seen that in Xfinity. Xfinity's had a couple of snoozers. So I would definitely say a great season for everyone. ARCA should be very proud of themselves. Ron Drager, everybody there, absolutely great. I'm just so happy for everyone. So our final point standings, Nick Sanchez would win the championship, 14 points over Daniel Dye. Raja Cruz was third. Sammy Smith, despite missing 4 races, climbed back up to finish fourth. Greg Van Elst was fifth. Tony Breidinger was sixth. Amber Balkin was seventh. Brad Smith was eighth. Zachary Tinkle was ninth. And 10th was Taylor Gray. In the Owners' Championship, obviously, Kyle Busch won his first Owners' Championship. Billy Venturini was second. Max Siegel was third with the 2 car. Murray Gallagher's 43 car was fourth. Bill Venturini's 15 car was fifth. Max Siegel's 6 car was down in sixth. Greg Van Elst, 35, was seventh. Kathy Venturini's 25 car was eighth. Andy Hillenberg, shout out to Andy Hillenberg's team for getting a top 10 finish in the Owners' points. The 11 car finished ninth, and Mark Rhett's team finished 10th with the 30 car. The car that got the coveted last spot in the top 20 bonus did go to the Billy Venturini 55 car, as the Jeff McClure car, with how many points that they had acclaimed and the 50-point bonus, moved up to 18th in the points. So shout out to Jeff McClure's team for getting that little bit of an extra bonus. And of course, Brad Smith, Alex Club, Wayne Peterson, and the 3 other Hillenberg cars were also in the top 20 bonus. Same with the 17 David Gilliland entry. Whew. So yeah, and that's just the main series. We haven't even gone to the West. We haven't even gone to the West Series yet. But yeah. Well, what a main series season, guys. I'm really just absolutely so happy about it, and I can't wait for 2023. 2023 is going to see a big shakeup. Will DGR still be in the series as Toyota? Will KBM still be in the series as Chevrolet? Well, remains to be seen. Venturini, they said on the broadcast, Venturini might have as much as 4 full-time cars. More stuff from Zachary Tinkle here. Eventually, I made it to Daniel Dye's trailer. When it came back, still not there. Tony was there, and Grant. That's when the argument happened. So they did have an argument. Then Daniel came out with the trailer, and I talked to him as soon as he's done with the media. Well, at least Daniel Dye was talking to people, but, there was a picture of him. He left the track pretty quickly. When that race was over, he was out of that gate very quickly, just probably wanted to go to the hauler and I'm not saying cry, but just disappointed. And kind of wanted to be around no one, and that's understandable. Whew. So that took us all the way for the main series race, but we still got a quick race to preview. The ARCA West Series is back after a week break, and we are at the Las Vegas Bullring. And I think I can agree with everyone saying that the Truck Series should really come back to Las Vegas, but run the Bullring and not the actual 1.5-mile track. I don't know what you guys would agree, but I've been among the agreement. We really should bring the Truck Series to the Las Vegas Bullring. That would be a very, very fun race. And might I say, guys, just an unbelievable entry list for this race. 26 cars. Arguably the second biggest ARCA West field this season. and the biggest main West race we've seen this season as well. Obviously, Phoenix had 38, but that was a conjunction event with the main circuit. This is the West Series by itself, and they got 26 cars, a great field of cars. Even despite not even having the Pedroncellis there, just a great field of cars. We'll go over them right now. Sean Hingorani was in the 4 for Eric Nascimento. Jerry Pitts Racing is running a third car with Jacob Smith in the 5. Jake Drew, Takuma Koga, Tanner Reff, Chris Loudon, Kyle Keller, Todd Souza, Landon Lewis, Buddy Shepard will be driving the 17 for MMI Motorsports. RJ Smotherman's back in the 21. Andrew Tuttle in the 39. Tanner Reff's brother, Tyler Reff, will be making his debut in a third Loudon Jackson Motorsports entry. Amber Schlegel is in the 42. Okay, so she will be there again. I'm going to botch his name, so forgive me. Andres Perez de Lara. I probably botched that name. I apologize. He's back again, driving for David Gilland Racing in the 51. Joey East is in the 54. Eric Red is in the 66. Good to see him back. Taylor Gray is running. DGR is bringing 2 cars, like I said in the tweet. But, of course, with MMI running the 17, that means DGR's got to flip their numbers, and Taylor will be in the 71. Nick Jonades will be in the 77. Bradley Erickson is in the 84. Vince Little's back again in the 85. Bridget Burgess in the 88. Sarah Burgess, yes, mother-daughter combination. How about that? Sarah Burgess. She'll be making her debut in the 97. Cole Moore in the 99. Katie Hediger in the 02. That's from Young's Motorsports. And David Smith. A very, very stacked field of cars. And to be honest, I don't see any starting parks. Any starting parks in there. I think all 26 are going to end up going the whole distance. I absolutely love it. Big field of cars. If I had to give a pick to win the race, I'm still going to go with a Sunrise Ford entry. I'm going to go with Jake Drew again just because you can call it a basic pick, but I think he's going to be the man to beat. My sleeper pick underdog will be Todd Souza. God, love it if Todd could get another one. He's been so close so many times. I don't know why I don't pick Taylor Gray. He did win this race last year, but I am going with Jake Drew to win. Obviously, the championship, we've been over it many times. Jake Drew actually could lock up the championship in this race if he finishes better than 5th, I believe. He will have accumulated enough points to where he will actually lock up the 2022 West Series Championship, even though the ARCA West Race at Phoenix is expected to hit more than 35 cars. The ARCA West Championship will pretty much already be decided. And yeah, so Jake Drew looks like he will get vengeance for last year's championship loss with dominating this season and winning the Drivers' Championship. And Bob Roncati will get revenge winning the Owners' Championship as well. But in the driver points anyway, Cole Moore is moved up to 2nd. He is 51 points behind. Tanner Reff is 3rd, 58 points behind. Todd Souza is 4th. Joe East is 5th. Takuma Koga is 6th. Bridget Burgess is 7th. PJ Petroncelli is 8th, but he's not entered. Austin Herzog is 9th, but he's not entered. And Landon Lewis is 10th. So again, for this race, like I said, we got DGR entered. Got some other names in there entered. Again, very, very stacked field of cars. The West Series, I feel like, is definitely on more of an even playing field than the main circuit in terms of, kind of the cars that are running. Some great stories, though, like I said, with Cole Moore winning at All-American. Bill McAnally Racing is going for its 100th career win. Taylor Gray's out here just for another fun race, trying to get another West Series win. Jake Drew's trying to lock up the championship. Tanner Reff's brothers in the field. So we got a lot of great stories coming into this race. Fortunately, again, it's not going to be on the main channels. It'll be on Flow Racing, and it's going to be pretty late in the go. It's going to be 9:45 at Friday night. So, if you guys want to stay up with me and tune into some live race updates, I'll be there. But it's going to be a late night race, mainly because from where it is in Las Vegas to here in Iowa, it's a 2-hour difference. So it's 6:51 right here in Iowa, and it's only 4:51 over in Las Vegas. So So one of the drawbacks about having West Coast races is that we have to watch them way into the night. And I don't really like that very much, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, so those are my picks for the race. Jake Drew winning. My underdog pick will be Todd Souza. ARCA West Series, definitely glad to see that they're back to where they were. I mean, think about it. We literally only had 13 cars at Portland. And to have, double that a couple races later at the Las Vegas Bullring is absolutely just great to see. It's great to see for the series. It shows that the series has life, and it cures a lot of my nerves, because there were some points this season I was genuinely concerned for the West Series at the low fields that we were getting. And it just shows you the ARCA West Series still has plenty of life in it. Same can't really be said about the ARCA East Series, but we'll cross that bridge another time. Obviously, of course, with this race, and then, of course, we got the season finale event at Phoenix, the conjunction event, the championship finale for everyone. And that's expected to be a big field, by the way. I'm pretty sure Venerini is going to be there with a couple of cars. I know Andy Hillenberg will be there with a couple of cars. Expect a lot of these, pretty much all of the, expect DGR will also be there with their 2 West cars. I wouldn't even be shocked to see the 18 there with Sammy Smith as just one little, go around. Wouldn't even be shocked to see Brandon Jones in there in the 81. Would not be shocked to see both the Gibbs cars there as well. So yeah, Phoenix is going to be a good race. Las Vegas this weekend, it's going to be a banger. If I had to ask, though, which Burgess is going to do better, Sarah or Bridget, I'm going to say Sarah. I'm actually going to say Mother Sarah is actually going to do better than Bridget. It's going to be funny to see how the mother and the daughter race out there. And obviously, we want both of them to finish. I definitely want Bridget and Sarah to finish. I don't want them to crash out, but I think that's really cool. And that's something I don't think we'll ever see in the NASCAR series. And I think that is absolutely great to see in the series that we got a mother-daughter combination, especially in this day and age, because you would not see something like that mainly in 2022. And it's amazing that the ARCA series can provide us that opportunity. Oh, man, what a show, man. Like I said, the championship always brings out the best in the series with no weird playoff format. Shocker, man. We don't need – you guys didn't even realize that. We don't need a playoff format to have a great championship battle. I'm sorry. I'm just not a big fan of the NASCAR playoff format. I am not. ARCA's definitely shown this year you don't need a playoff format to have an amazing championship battle. On the driver's side and the owner's side, we're both were absolutely entertaining. So congratulations to the ARCA Main Series for a great season. And congratulations to the West Series for picking back up the car counts. Can't wait for this weekend's race at Las Vegas. It's definitely going to be a banger. Will we see another fight? Maybe so. Will we probably see a fight at Phoenix? Probably. Oh, boy. But yeah, so I thank you guys again for tuning into tonight's episode. Thank you guys for sticking with me all this time. Wow, 53 and a half minutes. We definitely went a long episode tonight. So, but hey, it's the championship episode. So you got to make the championship episode a big episode, so. Anyway, you guys know the drill in this closing, 531 subs. Our goal is to get to 1,000. Of course, at 1,000, we're going to be having a huge giveaway. So keep that up, guys. Like and subscribe again to the channel. Follow all my friends on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter as well. And, for everyone else in the chat, Zachary Tinkle for tuning in tonight. Tony Bridinger for tuning in tonight. It's great to have some ARCA drivers that, support this show because, again, it's just kind of, you see all these podcasts about NASCAR, and I wanted to create something about ARCA, and it makes me really happy to see where this podcast has gone. And it really wouldn't be done without your guys' support. Even having just 7 people right now with me. I used to do this show with nobody live because I wasn't that big of a channel. And here we are now, a year and a half later, and we've grown and grown and grown. And all I can say is just thank you, an absolute thank you to all of you. And, we got 2 more races this season. I don't know what we're going to do for off-season stuff. I'm going to try to put together some interviews, hopefully, and something fun. But to the people who have stuck by me with this long and ever since day one, thank you very much. And we will be lucky to see you. We'll be happy to see you guys next week for the Las Vegas review. Until then, I have been Colby Evans, starting Park Car, and we are signing off. And we will see you guys. Although, let's see here. Before I sign off, I don't know if we'll do a backmarker battles. With the seasons getting closer down, I think we should do some to discuss some of the bonuses. But again, that remain to be seen, and I will announce that on Twitter. So till then, sayonara, and we'll see y'all later. Signing off, Colby Evans. Bye-bye.